All right. Hey, everybody. I'm back. Hopefully you can hear me and see me okay. I haven't live streamed. Gosh, what has it been? Like 8 months? More? It's been a while. My audio levels are saying that I'm streaming, so hopefully you can hear me. Cool. Oh my gosh, I just noticed this. My daughter scratched my nose here the other day, and like right at 4K. Look at that. Let's not look at me anymore. Let's get down here. I can hear you all in the chat, so seems like everything's okay. So let's get right into it here. All I've done so far is just make a new Laravel app. So I just ran Laravel new and got everything kind of set up, and then I ran this little gwd command that gets the working directory so I can set this project up in PHP Storm. That's all I've really done so far. I haven't done much more as far as like creating anything, writing any code, doing anything like that. So all we have is a fresh Laravel 10.44 application that we're going to kind of hack around in and see if we can get this idea that I have, kind of bring it to life, kind of proof of concept today. So let's talk a little bit about what that idea is. I'm going to express it in code here, but I don't write a lot of new Laravel applications, to be honest with you. And I started a side project, as some of you might know, a couple months ago. One of the reasons I haven't been streaming is because I kind of just been using my extra time to work on that. But I feel like there's still this big paper cut in Laravel around mass assignment and fillable and all of that stuff. Fillable versus guarded, mass assignment, silently like discarding attributes. You know, there's been all these like little additions to the framework over the years that have kind of like tried to make this a bit easier. But I don't think like they've really solved it. And it's kind of one of the, in my opinion, one of the very few kind of rough DX things that Laravel has, kind of this like legacy thing that just hasn't been quite cracked the way a lot of other Laravel problems have, like hasn't been smoothed out. You know, Laravel's so fresh, so clean. You know, so I just feel like it'd be nice to have this kind of figured out, right? So I have an idea. And anyway, let me shut up about the idea and let's actually look at some code, right? So again, fresh Laravel application. There was a poll on Twitter the other day talking about how you know, streamers, like, you know, they jump right into a problem but they've already thought it out and everything, and some people had commented on the thread that they really enjoyed my streams, that you know, I kind of start at the beginning. So in an effort to start at the beginning, again, here is a fresh Laravel application. I've written no code, so let's write the code to kind of express the problem, and then let's dig into the framework to try to, you know, get that, see if we can solve it in maybe a slightly cleaner way, right? Again, I don't think there's anything wrong with Laravel here. It's just a little nuance, a little paper cut that, like, I don't know. I feel like we're close. I feel like we're close. Let's see if we can make it a little better. Let's see what you all think. So I'm installing Blueprint here, another package that I have. You all are probably familiar with. You dedicated few people that watch me on the stream. I appreciate it. I'm seeing some of you all in the chat: Samuel, Adrian, Bernard. So anyway, let's get started with Blueprint, just to kind of generate me some code. Again, this stream is not about me writing code per se. So I think there's a PHP artisan Blueprint. Let's just slow down typing here. Blueprint init, I think, maybe. Oh, see, brand new Laravel project. Haven't configured anything yet. Let's configure stuff, shall we? So I'm definitely not using MySQL because I'm just on my Mac. So let's change this just simply to SQLite. And let's get rid of this stuff again, just for speed of use here. All right, SQLite, and then let's do touch database database.sqlite. as easy as that to set up an SQLite database. All right, let's try this again. Blueprint init, there we go, traced one model. That one model that it traced is of course the user model that comes by default with Laravel, and I believe this makes me a draft file. Yes, it does. This is what we care about, this draft file. Okay, enough Vim. Let's get back into PHP Storm. That's the extent of my Vim capabilities here. Okay, so what I want to do is let's just do, again, this is not about the code per se or the application that is. It's not really about what the application is. It's just about you know, creating something that demonstrates the save bit here. So let's do post, and we'll just simply do like author is a string, and who cares, content is text, and published at is a date time, right? And Blueprint's going to take care of everything else for me. Let's just make a post controller, and I think I can say something like resource web. Again, we don't need all of these things. I don't even need to say web, I don't think. Again, I don't make many new Laravel applications, so even though I have this like code generation tool, I really don't get to use it a whole lot, and I've now forgotten some of its awesomeness. Okay, so I'm pretty sure this will work. PHP artisan blueprint build. Bink. All right, cool. So again, I'm using Blueprint because I don't want to spend a lot of time writing the code. We just need a very basic app that allows me to save some stuff, to update some stuff, to start to demonstrate kind of this paper cut that I'm talking about. So by just those few lines of YAML, I'm able to get here a post controller, a factory, the migration for this, the post model, the post controller test, which is going to come in handy. We want to make sure our changes still work. We get a form request object that's going to be critical here in a minute, and we get some, you know, templated views. There's not actually code in these views, of course, because we don't know what your UI looks like, but the point is it makes those resources, and it even generated the web route for us. So if we do something like PHP artisan route list, we should see we get all these post actions now. If we do vendor bin, let's check this out, PHP unit, composer update -w, I think. I don't even need a -w. I don't remember if Blueprint adds this or not. You know, that was an edge case. This is, again, getting on a tangent here a bit, sorry. That was an edge case with this. Somebody had to like open an issue saying, hey, it should like tell you that it needs these assertions. So let's go do that. Or well, not Laravel. Jason McCreary, Laravel assertions, there it is. Let's install this. There it is. All right. That's the problem. Ryan, fun fact, PHP Artisan will migrate, will ask you if you want. Beautiful, there you go. I probably still would have needed, of course, to change my environment to use the SQLite driver though. But that's good to know that PHP Artisan will generate the database for us. So I didn't have to do that touch SQLite command, but it's just one command, so one command versus one command. I'm old school. Anyway, let's go back up to that vendor bin PHP unit. Okay, we're getting a couple failures here. I'm not going to worry, is not a type form request. I'm not going to worry too much about these failures just yet. Let's go look at the code. That's a little more important. And then we can come back and make sure that these work the way we expect. So let's get into PHP Storm. And let's go back and specifically let's look at this post controller, because this is where I'm going to want to start doing stuff. So what we really care about here is this, okay? I think first and foremost we care about this, and specifically what I want to address is this line right here. So if anything, we can just go find the test for this store method and kind of focus in on it. So let's actually do just that, post controller store request. That name seems wrong. I feel like it would be post store request. That's probably what the issue is here. Yes, it is. Little Blueprint bug there. Post controller store request. Come on, PHP Storm, keep up. I think there's an issue here. these don't say post controller, they're just regular. So let's see. Oh, it's not a YAML file, they're PHP files, not PHP Storm's fault. There we go. All right, let's fix this real quick. That should be post controller, and that too, both of these should be post controller. And let's look for post controller update as well, because that's wrong. Let's just find those, let's fix those. That's probably why the tests are failing. So again, a bit of a nod to Blueprint and my my forgotten information there of, there we go, a little bit better. Let's see, post store request as post store request because name's already in use. Post controller. Oh, did I import that? No need to import that again. All right, still have some failures. Again, we'll come back to that. Let's go to the test now, post controller test, and let's focus in on this, store saves and redirects. Let's just make sure this one actually works. So I'm gonna say filter, store saves and redirects. Okay, one of our problems is here, so let's actually solve this problem. The following exception occurred during the test. Expected a scalar or array as second argument to input bag. Which line is this breaking on? Post controller 70, what did I break? 70, assert count 1 posts. Assert count 1 posts. Expected a scalar or array as second argument. Got input bag? Set date time given? That's very strange. Maybe you have to say count here? I thought it was a, let's see if this helps. Nope, it says post controller 70. Something's not what it seems here. Expected a scalar or an array as second argument. I feel like something's happening higher up in the framework and not necessarily, or in the application and not necessarily here. Posts. Post route store. All right, well let's just start at the top, shall we? I didn't think this was going to be the problem, but let's say here. Okay, so something is just completely wired incorrectly here. So what's going on? Post store. Let's go way back up and make sure the routes are correct. Resource routes post. Okay, so that should be fine. Should be getting into store right here. So response. Well, let's DD, whoops. Let's DD posts. I think there's something wrong in the form requests, I bet. Yeah, okay. So we're getting back here because we're failing higher up than this controller action, which would be here. So what's broken here? Post store controller request. Are we getting to rules? So DD rules. Nope. So it's sending a request, but where the heck is it going? Something, whoops, something is amiss here. Post controller. See, this is why you set everything up before you start live streaming. Composer, dump, auto load, dump dash auto load. I changed the names of those classes, so maybe something's with that. I don't think so, but let's try again. Nope. All right. One last time here. Let's kind of wade through post controller test. Line 62 is the origin. Post controller test line 62, which would be here. Faker date time. To date time string, I think. What is datetime? Datetime's an object. So we'd have to format that as C. Is that the problem? Oh my goodness. That is annoying. That is really annoying. Ugh. I need to clean that up. That's a bad experience. That's a very bad experience. Yeah, that should... Eeh. Ugh. Gross. Okay. All right. Anyway. Yeah, whoops. That's ugly. All that for that. Okay, so the test passed. The problem here, just to kind of explain, the problem here, and again in that convoluted stack trace here, it's saying expected scalar or an array as second argument found date time given. It makes a little more sense now that we kind of get this, but the point here is that it was passing in the datetime object, PHP's datetime object here, and that's kind of a no-go. It needs to be, you know, form input or a string. So we formatted it to just be, you know, ISO 8601 or whatever with the C. That solved it. And now the test passed. So again, sorry about that. Thumbs down. Yeah, I would probably thumbs down that too. Sorry for the workaround. Okay, I think we're back in a good place now. Okay, so we have this post controller test. So let me just start to demonstrate kind of the annoyance here. So right now we're saying validated, and validated gives us an array of the validated data that came back from the form request object. So more or less we can trust that, right? So that's good. That's helpful. Where this kind of starts to fall apart, or where I think there's some nuance to kind of what exists, is there is also this safe object. And if we take a peek at this safe object, it can return an array if you pass in the keys, only the keys that you want here, or it passes in illuminates validated input object. And what that allows you to do is, let's say, for example, you know, you want to merge in user ID or whatever with this, right? To be the request user ID, right? If you wanted something along those lines. Oh, sorry, this takes an array, of course. And when you get that back, again, it is this validated input object. You keep getting all this validated input object. You can chain all this stuff. You can tweak it. You can remove stuff. You can call only yourself. That's cool. This safe object was introduced a couple versions ago. And in my mind, I thought, oh, that's awesome. But when you go and, you know, run this, you're going to get kind of a wall of errors here. And if we scroll up, basically the point here is that you're not able, or well, first of all, we're not validated here. We're not authenticated. So let me just kind of simulate this with 1, 2, 3. And so the point here, though, is that ultimately, like, create takes an array, and instead you got this validated input object. So I don't know, like, you can get around that, of course, by saying, you know, all or to array, I think it is, or if you put it in the right spot. Sorry, why is it kicking in there? All. Oh, sometimes I got GitHub Copilot running. You probably can't see it suggesting that fast, but it ends up kind of jumping the carrot sometimes to be before where it thinks I want to do it. Anyway, if we tack on all, we can make this thing back to an array. I think, though, that it would be really cool, again, just to be able to pass this in, or just to pass this in, right? I mean, the whole point here is that this is safe, and I'm passing this information in. Fine, again, just kind of some syntactic sugar of chaining. Here's where it gets deeper, though, in my mind. So let's just kind of bring up all these different objects. So we have validated. Let's comment these out for now and put this in. We're back to passing. There's another side to this that we're not getting at. Down here in fillable, Blueprint down here in the model, Blueprint automatically set up all of these things to be fillable. But again, if I comment those out, I end up with kind of a nasty thing here, right? Add author to fillable property to allow mass assignment. So this is a two-part thing. It might seem very simple in the controller, but instead of saying validated, it'd be really cool to say safe, this to end up passing. Right now we're getting a type error, but this passes, right? And it passes because I'm using the validated input, which we can trust because it's safe, and I don't have to set fillable or guarded inside of that, and therefore I would avoid the error we just got and validated with, fillable property to allow mass assignment. So it's this whole dance of all this, but the point is that with this safe method, I'm already getting a validated first class object that I could use down in Eloquent. And if that was passed to Eloquent, then it would just handle it and not worry about fillable, guarded, all that crap, right? That's the idea. That's the problem, and that's the proposed kind of fix, so to speak. So let me know what you think of that in the comments. Hopefully it makes sense. Again, I know we kind of bounced around between test and everything here, but hopefully this kind of demonstrates that paper cut that I'm kind of talking about here. So let's get into the core of Laravel and see if we can get this passing, right? I want this to pass. How much code do I have to change to actually make that line pass? And therefore the line above it would pass. And of course, this would continue to work because all applications in the world are built that way and we wouldn't want to break them. So let's get on down in there. So let's just click down into model and let's kind of take a peek here. Well, we don't even really need to take a peek. We kind of know where we want to go, right? So is there a create method? I didn't think so. So this is where it's going to get a little bit complicated. There's definitely some dynamic behavior that's happening down in model. Huge core class. We want to be mindful about how much we change. There is no create method. Create is a static method, so my guess is there might be like a static here or call static. Yeah, there we go. Okay, look at this. Call static is just a straight pass through to a new instance of this method. So it calls create, which would call, and where is create? Okay, forwards call to new query. Okay, so call static makes a new instance and then calls that dynamic method on it with the parameters. So it just delegates on a brand new object. So that would then call, because again, create, as we saw, does not exist. It's not any one of these methods. It's not a relation, I'm going to assume. It doesn't start with through. So we should be landing here in the forward call to new query. New query is probably a query builder, yeah, or an Eloquent builder. So let's go down there and let's see if create exists here. Function create, it does. Okay, we tap a new model instance and then call automatically save. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so we create a new model instance. What does it do? This calls model new instance with the attributes array. Here it is. This is looking a little closer. We set the connection, we do all this stuff on. So new instances, here we go. New instance is what matters, okay? So new instance doesn't have a type hint for array attributes. It defaults to an array, but there is no type hint. We make a new one, we set some stuff on it, we set the properties, we set the table, we merge in the cast attributes, or the cast properties, sorry, and then we call fill. This is where we get cast as an array. So let's just start wiping out the array bit here because it's not necessarily, yes, I want to do this. Again, we're kind of hacking the vendor folder right now. So let's take out fill with that array cast. Let's go check out fill. Okay, that's interesting. Fill actually does have an array type hint. So this is probably where we're starting to get a bit of an issue. Okay, so I'm going to take that out of there. All we're doing is just kind of going deep down the rabbit hole and getting rid of anything that says you have to be an array. Okay, great. All right, so argument 1, attributes must be of type array. Forwards calls 23. If we scroll back up though, I bet you there's somewhere else where we missed the array. create argument 1 attributes must be of type array, validate input called in forwards calls and defined in builder 1021. So let's go back to builder. Where did I miss that? 1021. Oh, create itself has. Okay, so let's drop that off there. Whatever. We're just gonna keep hacking it. All right, fillable from array attributes. Okay, so now we're in Eloquent Model 512. I hear you in the chats. Let me just get the thought out here. Okay, so fillable from array makes you be an array. I'm just gonna keep killing it. Okay, add author to fill. Okay, so now we're in the mass assignment issue, which is actually a good error. We're back to where we were before with validated, but we're not getting any more type errors. So what, changing 3 method types where they weren't consistent in fairness all the way across is kind of getting us back to where we were with validated, but we haven't filled out the fillable property in the model. So theoretically, if I went back here, I would get past this mass assignment error, but I would probably get another type error because again, we're passing validated input when that's not what it expects. Yeah, array intersect must be, okay, so we need to actually handle this validated input now because, you know, that's not what the code expects. So we need to tweak that. Let's see what's going on in the chat. What do we have here? You still need to remove the array type in and build. Okay, gotcha, Adrian, thanks. All right, so I think we're caught up. I think what we need to do now though is at this point, fillable from array, at this point, in this method, we need an array now. We've kind of allowed us to pass down to fill, but now we're actually comparing this stuff. This is the method that compares things based on the comments and kind of the code I'm seeing, that this is where it starts to put things into your model attributes. It fills them out. And if one of those doesn't match up, then we're going to get that error that we're getting, right? It's going to throw this exception and say, hey, you weren't, you tried to assign something that wasn't assignable. So let's just kind of systematically kind of hack some stuff here. So we're able to actually pass this thing validated input now. So I think the thing to do is say, if what attributes is an instance of validated input, then we need to kind of turn on some things, maybe some of these flags about guarded here, to let this method do what it used to do with the stuff that we trust, right? With that validated input. So that's pretty straightforward. We would just say if attributes is an instance of validated input, first party class, so it's not like we're hacking anything else, then we could basically just say attributes equals attributes all, but that's not enough. We need to actually allow these attributes to be plugged in regardless of if they're in the fillable bit, right? Because that's kind of that extra side, that extra mile that we're going again to make this safe method that already exists actually do the more powerful stuff, meaning you don't have to set fill. If you do this stuff in your application, if you use form requests, if you validate input and you use that safe method, you can now use that first party object and you don't have to worry about doing all this like extra stuff in your models, fillable, guarded, whatever, right? Mass assignment, you can just get around it. In my mind, the easiest way to get around that is exactly what we're seeing on the line above, this guarded or unguarded aspect. And if we go in and look at these, we can see this. If the state of the model is currently unguarded, right? And there's ways in which, you've seen this in your code. Again, you can use guarded directly on your model if you want, just to unguard everything. That's kind of what this method is checking. But what we can do is we can actually just hack into that right now, I think, and that would actually get us pretty far. So, and by hacking, I mean we can set this if we know that what you passed in is validated input, then we can just trust that we can unguard the model for right now because we're trusting that input. That's the whole point. So let's say, what is that, self unguard? Can you do that? Is this a first party method? It is a static method. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's a static method, static property. So we'll just say self unguard, right? Or static unguard. We could probably even say this unguard if we want to be a little bit gross. Is it self? I think you might have to say static here. That's one of those PHP things. Is that what they do down here? Yeah, static. We should use static. Self is like this class, which is abstract, and static would be the dynamic resolution of the class. All right, let's try this. Ooh, it passes. That's it. It worked. It's green. Let's go back. Let's go back for a second. Let's go back to validated. I want to make sure I didn't break too much, right? Okay, that's great that worked. We kind of expected that in fairness because it's just a bunch of type-ins. But does this still work? Oh, okay. Well, actually, it does work. Fillable, and this is kind of the point. If I go back and I go back to here, does this pass? It does. Ooh, nasty. Okay, so that's pretty fast and loose. Let's make sure that we actually kind of are doing the right thing here. It's probably not that simple, in fairness. I hear some chat, so you're probably telling me it's not that simple. What we've done is said that if we pass in a validated input as our attribute's argument, we're going to turn that into arrays so that way the rest of the code behaves the way we think. We unguard it. We probably need to reguard the model in fairness, so there's a little bit more we need to do here. We can't just leave your model unguarded. That's not right. So for the purposes of this, we would need to kind of turn that back on, so we'll need to track that. Do we do anything else with attributes that would matter down here? I don't think so. I mean, it's fine to just overwrite that locally. I think if we reguard the model, like this is okay. We should probably look at like what calls fill, you know, and make sure that we want to make sure we do this in the right spot systematically, right? Should this happen higher up only for create? Do we allow it to happen for, you know, update, new instance, all that kind of stuff? There's more to track here, and that's where the framework level test suite would kind of help, and maybe that's the part 2 of this video. I think right now we're just kind of proving the concept, and I think we've actually proved that a lot faster than I thought. I spent more time battling Blueprint than I did the framework. Let's see what y'all are saying in chat. I think unguarded will unguard all models, and it might be very unsafe with something like Octane. I think reguarding it is obviously important. You have to remember that guarded is a static property, but it's static to your instance of the model. So it wouldn't, I guess what I'm saying is it would do it for all instances of that model, but not all instances of all models, if you catch what I'm saying there. You're right, though. We would need to turn this, of course, back off. So let's fix that first. So what we could do, we're kind of tracking totally guarded here. So we could do something similar, and we could say like was guarded equal to static is guarded. Yeah, there you go. Or is unguarded. Let's call it was unguarded, just to not do that whole like brain dance of. So we're going to unguard it ourselves, and then we would say something like if not was unguarded, meaning it was guarded, then we would want to call static guarded when we were done. Whoops, guard. Yeah, and that would reguard things. I think there's a reguard. I think there's a reguard in here. Yeah, reguard. That might be better. Regard. There we go. Yeah, so there you go. That would kind of turn it on and back off for the purposes of this method, which, to the next comment in the chat, why not force fill? Let's go look at what force fill does. Force fill, it takes an array. That's probably fine though. When you're force filling something, you're doing exactly what we just did here. If you look at the code, we're just calling fill with the attributes, but they're unguarding it for the life cycle of this. So let's look at this code because we're basically mirroring this in the event that we pass in that validated object. So you pass in a callable. If you're unguarded, just call you straight back. Otherwise, unguard, that's what we're doing, and then try to run the callback, and then at the very end, regardless of what happens, regard. This is exactly what we're doing. So force fill, the behavior, we've recreated the behavior of force fill, which leads me to believe that we're on the right track. We've just done it within the fill method in the instance that you have passed the argument, or the argument is an instance of validated input. So we've done exactly what force fill does, just in the fill method that allows you to do something, something like this in your code and have it work, which is, again, that makes me feel like we're on the right track. Did I leave off these? I did. These are still all commented out. So yeah, this works. I mean, sweet. Yeah, so now you can just pass the safe thing, and I would totally believe that you would be able to pass this in as well. Although, this is actually a good test, thinking about it. This is a nice test because user ID isn't actually on our post, so I'm wondering if this would trigger that kind of prevent silently discarding, even though that we've unguarded everything. So let's actually test that. Add author to fillable property to allow mass assignment. What did we, oh, we're passing all, duh. Let's get rid of the all so we still pass at the validated input. I would expect a similar error, but for user ID. Okay, post column has no user ID. Is that expected behavior? Is that expected behavior? I guess what I'm saying is did I break something, or would validated, if we like array merged, if we array merged validated with the same thing, does it throw the same error? Oh, and you said all the fillable stuff. Does it throw the same error? No, it doesn't. It just discards it. So we've created a little bit of a difference. There's a little bit of a difference in what we've done here. What is the difference? Let's go find out. Is fillable. If it's unguarded, it's just always true. Otherwise get fillable. It tests against fillable, or it makes sure it's not in the guarded array. So we're kind of just always returning true, whereas the other stuff returns, it would maybe return false, which we're not preventing silently discarding attributes, and we're not totally guarded, our model isn't, so it's just kind of getting rid of user ID. So that is a bit of a nuance. That is slightly different. I don't know if that's acceptably different, but it is something that we've just noticed here. So to kind of recap that, in current Laravel, if I pass in to create a field or an attribute that isn't on the model and it isn't infillable, it just silently gets discarded. Now I would get a warning about that if I turn to my application, to have this prevents silently discarded. But without any of that, my test just passes. Whereas if we go back to this top one where I'm doing effectively the same thing, I'm passing in all of the stuff, but then also this user ID, which again doesn't exist. In this case, it's actually setting it on the model, which is trying to put it into the database, and that's causing an error. To me, I think that's an acceptable error, because if you say that you have safe input and you're trying to create something from it and you didn't like say only or whatever or tweak that input beforehand, I would expect this error. But it is a bit, I guess it is a bit stricter without that prevents silently discarding. The real question would be is if I said if I turned on prevent silently discarding, would I have gotten a more appropriate error message, I guess. Yeah, strict model mode. Let's turn on strict model mode and see if I happen to get a different error. That's what I would want. I think I would want this code to be able to account for that. I don't want to, like, I wouldn't ever want to make things like unsafe, right? So let's go back. Let's make sure, let's turn all this off. Let's turn on this prevents. Let's turn on this prevents silently discarding. What do you do that in your app model service provider? I don't think I've done this yet. It's, again, a relatively recent addition. Let's go find out. Laravel prevent silently discarded attributes. All right, thanks Stack Overflow. Where's my answer? Oh my goodness, that is a long question. What is going on? Blech. Where's the real answer? Model prevent, okay, there we go. App service, perfect, see, thank you. If you're ever, geez, Stack Overflow. Is boot method? Yeah, boot method, all right. So if we do this, oh, duh. Let's import the class, shall we? Yep, cool, all right. Let's turn this back on. Okay, so we don't get, oh, okay, should be strict, does it all, okay, fair enough. Let's just turn on this one for now, because that's the one we care about. What I care about now, so we're still getting the user ID thing. See, technically it didn't discard it, it set it because you said it was safe input. I worry that anything to do to kind of prevent this error is kind of just putting us back in that boat of having something that like some kind of fillable or some kind of like accepted list, whitelist of values, and that I don't know if you're going to be able to kind of get around that. But let's go back. I think this one, the original one here, is what would throw an error now. Oh, jeez, look at this dance. I'm just proving the dance of fillable every time I run one of these tests. Okay, perfect. The fillable property user ID, add the fillable property user ID to allow mass assignment. Part of me feels like in strict mode, even our safe thing should maybe throw this message. I don't know what you all think in the chat. I think my gut reaction is that that if I went back to this line, our new code, trying to pass in some, to me I feel like it should say this, but here's also the other side of that coin. The suggested solution here is to add a fillable property to allow mass assignment. The whole point of what we're doing with the safe object is to get around the fillable guarded mass assignment dance. So, I don't know. It's kind of like sharp knives, right? This is the sharp knives kind of philosophy. Like, you said it was a safe object. Trust the data. You told the framework, hey, I gave you some safe stuff. Well, no, you didn't. You gave me stuff that didn't actually exist on the thing. Is that a development bug? What is that? Are you missing something in the database? Maybe this error is acceptable is my point. Maybe it's fine that this error stays here. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think the last comment really kind of nails it. The error is not about fillable. We're not talking about fillable anymore because you've bypassed fillable by saying what I gave you was safe. The problem now is that you have an application bug, an error in your code that the column doesn't exist. And that's a legit error. That's not something we should try to prevent or work around. That's a developmental bug. That's not a framework bug. That's a user error, I guess, is the other way to say that. So let's go back to, let's finish up here. Let's go back to this. Let's run this, and it passes. So with just, I think you can say like composer show dash VVV or something like that. No. Composer status dash VVV. There's something you can say. You can tell Composer to see which files we changed. Yeah, there we go. Guards attributes. What did we change in guards attributes? I don't remember that. Did I make a change here? I don't know what change I made in guards attributes, but let's kind of recap the changes. And then I think what I'll do in the next stream, just kind of to keep these somewhat short, I think what I'll do in the next stream is we'll actually try to go put this in the framework. Today I wanted to see how hard it was and how much was required to change. And so let's kind of recap that part. There is no change in userland code. Safe already existed. And safe is a very usable object. It's a validated input first-party object that allows us, it gives us all the methods that you're kind of used to, collection methods. It's got has, it's got missing, only, accept, merge. You can recollect it and do all sorts of the collection methods at that point. So it's a very powerful object. It's a bag, effectively, a data bag. So you can do whatever you want with it. The beauty now, though, is that you can take that object and pass it in to Eloquent first party, and what that helps you avoid is the mass assignment fillable guarded dance. So if you were to use this in your application, and again, there's nothing preventing you from just saying new validated input and passing in the data. I'm sure you can, there you can construct it with an array. So to make one of these objects, is super straightforward. There's nothing preventing you from doing it both ways. You can just pass the array the way you used to before. So I think this is a really lightweight change is kind of my point. And there's no requirements to use it, but I think I feel like it's a step in the right direction for those that do kind of write conventional code. They do use form requests. They don't have to do kind of like this ugly stuff here or work with this collection and then turn it back into an array to satisfy, these type hints that are kind of on some things, but not other things. So to that point, let's kind of get down into model again. We got down into model, and I think the only thing we changed here was new instance. This had an array type hint on it, and then we had a type hint here for the attributes. We added 5 lines of code here. The unguarding there, which basically we saw turns this into force fill. So we're on the right track as far as functionality. And then down in builder, we took it off create, but I don't think we took it off new instance. So again, even though some of these things have array attributes as a type hint and some don't, and they probably don't because other things, in the framework potentially pass stuff around to it. So, yeah, so I think there's, I don't know. I worry that this would be a very scary change because it would touch a lot of the framework. But if all it's doing is dropping a couple type hints that were arguably not consistently everywhere attributes is being used, as we see here on new model instance, and we're only putting a few lines of code in fillable to kind of recreate force fill without having to call force fill in your code everywhere, which I think is, not the right solution. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Hit me up on the YouTube comments, hit me up on Twitter, tell me your thoughts. But yeah, I think what I'd like to do next Wednesday is maybe stream adding this to Laravel 11, not 10, because again, we're going to change some of these type hints, which is a breaking change since it changes the methods. And 11 is going to be released, in a month. So that was kind of the point anyway. Let's put this on Laravel 11 and see if there's a chance for it to get in the framework. I think it has value. I don't know what you think. Tell me in the comments. Tell me on Twitter. Tell me on YouTube. I think it's cool. I think it's a tiny paper cut, and it's actually a much smoother solution than I thought. So, yeah. There's some sharp knife stuff here, though, for sure. So it's not for everyone, but for power users that are already using form requests, already validating stuff, already kind of messing with this method that says safe, I just think it would be cool to pass that object right along to Eloquent and have it do its stuff and never have to think about fillable and guarded and mass assignment ever again. So, see y'all next week.